Hello there. Today I'm going to talk about the influence of the planet Saturn in a person's sidereal birth chart. So, let's talk about what Saturn represents. So, basically, Saturn is a planet that represents things like obstruction, delays, slowness, persistence, also things like karma and hardships. So you can see that just by this definition, Saturn is a planet that can be quite gruesome in someone's chart if it has a very challenging presence. So, what sign is ruled by Saturn? That sign is Capricorn, which is an earth sign. And why is it important that it's the element of the earth? Because Capricorn is a very grounded sign, and as you can see, persistence, slowness, hardships, those things force you to take action. But it's not just uh, action that lasts a few hours. No, it's all about continuous action. And if we talk, sorry, if we talk about the word karma, karma is all about lessons that you are learning. And to experience those lessons, sometimes you have to take a hit or two so that you can learn how to do things in a new way, how to be someone different. And even after you think that you have learned that lesson, Saturn will strike, and that aspect, that karma, sometimes you'll be back so that it can test you. If you actually learned something and became something different, something better, and it may make you rethink about your progress a lot. So, there are also the houses in astrology which are related to different uh, aspects of life, and the 10th house, which is the one ruled by Saturn and Capricorn. The 10th house is all about career, reputation, responsibility, and public image. And if you think about it, career is also something that is slowly built. Like, you need to take action if you have a traditional 9 to 5 job, for example. You need to take action 5 days of the week, 8 hours a day. And so it's something that keeps building and building slowly, and oftentimes it's something that won't show you changes in a long time, and that can make a person quit. Again, like I described earlier, it's all about the persistence, the commitment. It's, you can see Saturn as like a very harsh teacher, someone who pushes you harder and harder and harder so that you can really master whatever lesson you need to learn regarding the configurations in your birth chart. It's quite a complex thing, but it's very interesting if you think about it. Where else? There's also the body aspect of the things, because planets, even though they do not control us nor our lives, even though there are certain influences that you can notice, for example, on the moon. When it's full moon, there's uh, a somewhat of a different vibe, and people have found a relationship between the full moon, the new moon, and, for example, the activity of parasites in a person's body. If I recall correctly, it's during the full moon where parasites lay eggs. That's why it's common to do detox methods like using black walnut and wormwood uh, during the full moon week, so that it can be more effective in the detox process. This is just an extra tip, a little bit off topic, but it's worth noting that. Um, but yeah, Saturn regarding the human body, um, it relates to everything that is hard. For example, the bones and the tooth. Like Saturn is related to calcifications. And speaking of calcifications, I can talk about some health problems related to the planet of Saturn, which can be like osteoporosis or arteriosclerosis. Even though arteries aren't bones, they can also get calcified, and that's somewhat nasty if you don't take care of that. Um, there are there's and this is not medical advice, of course, but according to my understanding, there's a physical aspect of health and spiritual or emotional, or rather, let's group that into a non-physical aspect of health. So there's a certain aspect in astrology, uh, and when I say aspect in this regard, I am talking about a certain angle that a planet does with another one. That if it's a square, that can cause over time arteriosclerosis. And there are fields like medical astrology and such that have found a correlation between certain herbs and the planets, and also healing a certain side of the same coin. For example, Saturn and Mars, for example, those two planets, if they form a square, and I'm not saying those two in particular are the ones causing arteriosclerosis, I'm just giving an example. You can figure out if it's the Saturn side that's causing the issue or if it's the Mars side. And depending on the side, you can you can search for herbs in medical astrology and consume them. And the idea is for that herb to uh, relieve whatever effect that planet is making you feel. So yeah, there are many interesting things related to all those planetary effects. And there's also another very important influence regarding Saturn, which is the Saturn return, which is probably one of the one or more than one, depending on the age you have right now. Because the Saturn return, you can look at that as a calendar year. It's basically the time the planet takes to take a lap, a full lap, to get back to its original position. You have the 365 years for the planet to go around the sun, and Saturn is like somewhere between 27 to 40 years. And that your Saturn return, that there will be probably three or four. One at like 30 years old, other at 60, other at 90, other at 120, and those situations basically can bring karmic uh, situations to surface and will push you very hard to work on them and to clear them from you. Uh, and it's also there's also an interesting thing to that's worth noting. It's that you can look at those groups of years like the moment you're born to 40 years old, 40 years old to 60 years old, and so on. You can look at those 30-year stages as different stages of your life. Like the first group of years from 0 to 40 is like that learning stage. and your Saturn return may be related to implementing what you have learned during those first 30 years in your life into the world. And it's interesting because I'm almost 30 years old as well, so I'm going right now through my Saturn return, and it's interesting. Uh, I've noticed that it can have some intensive effects, like things can be kind of chaotic, and that depends on your chart, of course. The Saturn return isn't the same, so to speak, for everyone. In my experience, the Saturn return is pushing me to build something uh, related to my own calling, like shaking the table. It calls me to build things like what I'm doing here, YouTube, and applying what I have learned and showing it to the world. And yeah, the next group of years from 30 to 60 years old, it's like where you are to serve. How to say? It's where basically you are being of service to the world. You have learned, and of course you will keep learning. It isn't a good idea to stop ever learning. Life forces you to learn, and you should learn by yourself, of course. And then there's the 60 to 90 years old, where it's like you can take the role of a mentor to someone younger. Um, and then, of course, there's the 90, excuse me, the 90 to 120 years old, where it's more like, I guess it's like the death stage, so to speak. I'm not familiar how the Saturn returns can play out after the first one. I have more experience in the first one, of course, because it's also what I'm living. It's my own experience, and yeah, I can expect that in every Saturn return, uh, it will be like a final exam, and it may be easier and it may be harder, but there will also always be a challenge associated with that, and things may shake you emotionally or physically. The possibilities are endless, and only by checking out your chart there's the secret for you to know how things roll. And yeah, I think I have talked enough about the influence of Saturn. It can be, to sum up, can be quite an heavy influence. It can turn your life upside down. But remember, your birth chart can have a great impact on you, but in the end, it only shows you the way you have chose to be before coming into this lifetime. It shows you your story. So you have free will anyway. You can choose consciously to follow that story or not, but expect life to push you to a certain direction. And if you go further from that, life will call you even louder. So, yeah, if you enjoy this type of content, leave a like and subscribe to watch some more down the line. And in the description, I leave my astrology services that I have available on the freelancing platform Fiverr, and you can take a look, and you can buy them if you feel the calling. And feel free to post comments in the video because I really enjoy discussing these topics with people, and you may as well. So let's keep the discussion going, yeah? So, yeah, I hope you enjoyed and take care.